What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over every New Year's resolution for each NBA team. I do want to say, do not feel attacked or offended if I gloss over your team quicker than the others. We only really diving into the teams that have the interesting New Year's resolutions. But besides that, I do want to give a big shout out to all of y'all that checked up on me over the past week. Wasn't really feeling my best, had to take a week off. Kind of felt like 5 months, but it was just a really short week. But I am glad to be back at the top of the year, kicking things off the right way, strong as ever. We're about to have such a great year. Everything is going to be more consistent, more bigger, from the YouTube to the Twitch to the podcast. Everything going up. But without further ado, let's dive in. I'm back. So first and foremost, we definitely got to give a big shout out to Grant Hughes over at the BR team, your favorite NBA team's 2023 New Year's resolution. First team that we have is the Atlanta Hawks. Ask the big question. So obviously I'm not going to read all the paragraphs for every team, but it says his presence on the floor has improved the Hawks' attack by huge margins in every season of his career, and yet the Hawks find themselves in a position where they have to ask whether Young is the right player to build around. Clashes with both coaches whom he's played, simmering tensions with top teammates, a failure to adjust his playing style to accommodate DeJounte Murray or anyone else, and now rumors of a potential down-the-road trade request should have Atlanta making an honest top-down evaluation. If it's true that the best path forward does not involve Young as a team centerpiece, it'd be far better to act a little too early than a little too late. I agree with that approach. I think a lot of NBA teams have to start progressing to that way of thinking, of trying to figure out things before they happen, because the earlier you see the writings on the wall, I think the better you're able to set your team up to pivot and make some type of transition. But I will say, when it comes to Trae Young, who's been a very good young player for the Atlanta Hawks, we can't forget just a couple years ago they were in the Eastern Conference Finals with a team that didn't look very Eastern Conference Finals ready. You can't go too soon. So I think a couple things have to happen before we can even think about a Trae Young trade. And I think Nate McMillan will probably not be the coach. That whole situation looks to be a little bit too drawn out. I thought Nate McMillan and the Hawks would have went, different ways, a little sooner than later, but he's still here. No attack on Nate McMillan, but the Hawk fit isn't working since we've seen them have the Eastern Conference Finals run. And then also the John Collins situation. Like, the John Collins being traded from Atlanta, will they re-sign him? The whole back and forth, that's been about 3 years now. And it kind of feels similar to the Pacers, Miles Turner type thing, except John Collins and the fit and the performance hasn't really gotten better. And now we're in a place where I don't know where he could really go, and if Atlanta is going to get the return that they once thought that they could. I also would love to see Onyeka Okongwu at some point get a chance to really dive into being the full-time center for them. So it's a lot of different things that can happen that I think should try to happen before we give up on the Atlanta Hawks Trae Young thing. But I will say, as far as looking at the optics and looking at the way the NBA is and the shortcomings of the Hawks, they have to ask themselves, can we be a championship level team with Trae Young being the face or one of the top players on this roster? And from what I've seen thus far, my answer to that question would be no. Because he's going to be sought after on the defensive side of the basketball, and he's going to be harder to hide than like a Steph Curry. And because we haven't seen him mesh with anybody, I don't know how it's going to work. You're damn near going to have to put together some perfect team. And the way that they've used their sources and resources to expand on those options, I don't know if that's still possible. They put in a lot of the chips to get DeJounte. Hasn't really looked well. The John Collins thing, I don't think you're getting back a crazy return. The one thing that I can say is they have drafted well. Onyeka Okongwu is amazing to me. AJ Griffin was an incredible steal. I think Jalen Johnson has a bunch of potential. There's things there, but when we talk about championship team, and if there's a blueprint there, it may be years down the road where some of those names that I just named, get a little bit more experience. But the Hawks should have that somewhere in the back of their mind. The next team we have is the Boston Celtics. Put it all together. And it says basically some of Boston's well-known bugaboos, namely turnovers and stagnation, crop back up as what we was once the league's top attack slipped in December. Fortunately, the Celtics have Robert Williams back in action following a knee injury. With him in the lineup, it should be possible for Boston to recapture its identity on the defensive end. The key to Boston making good on its championship potential will be finding a way to meld the offensive excellence it showed through the first 6 weeks of the season and the suffocating defense it played down the stretch a year ago. So basically what they're saying here is that the Boston Celtics need to take last year's defense and the beginning of this year's offense and combine it together, and they'll be a championship team. Putting it all together to be the overwhelming favorite or, the best team at the end of the season. I think the Celtics can do it, and I think, to me, it's all about timing. So even right now in this part of the season, if the offense ain't looking as well, if at the beginning of the season the defense didn't look as sexy because obviously Robert Williams was gone, all of that is fine. We see that there's a blueprint and there's a mold for Boston, and there's a level that they can and will get to on both sides of the basketball. Now, all they got to do is do it on a consistent basis in the playoffs. And I think that they can, because it's going to be hard for teams to beat this team in 7 games. There's not a 7-game stretch in the playoffs where the Celtics won't be able to really gritty up a team on the defensive end. And it's not a team, in my mind, yet, unless they prove me wrong, that can slow down the tandem of Brown and Tatum in 7 games. So I think that they can put it together. I don't think they have to be historic and have all of these ratings, the defensive rating here, offensive rating there. I know that's the obsession of what we look at in today's, scale of teams and how they're doing. But I think this team has showed us and given us enough confidence to know when the playoffs come, they have 2 different ways to beat you. And I would buy in on them putting it together when the time is right come this summer in the playoffs. Next team, we have the Brooklyn Nets. Stay quiet. So for Brooklyn, they're saying talent and depth were never in question for this group, though. Combustion potential was always the issue, and it'll remain that way for the duration of the season. The quieter things stay in Brooklyn, the more likely this team will make noise in the playoffs. I agree with this perspective, but I will say this, and I said this when it was happening. One of the best things that happened for this team was the Kyrie drama and his suspension. When Kyrie went out, Kevin Durant elevated his leadership, and he empowered a lot of those guys that the Nets are going to rely on down the road during the playoffs. Guys like Edmund Sumner, guys like Yuta Watanabe, guys like Nick Claxton. All of these random names that the Brooklyn Nets had on their team, they got elevated and empowered by being next to Kevin Durant for those stretch of games, and they were pulling games out, grinding them out. Guys were getting minutes and opportunity, and I was one of the people that said, hey, when Kyrie Irving comes back, a lot of these guys are going to feel confident, they're going to feel empowered, and it's going to give them more depth in turn. And Ben Simmons, he's back healthy now. Kyrie is back, and we're seeing that. Now that those guys are back, you have Edmund Sumner back to a bench role, but he's still playing a positive way. You have, Yuta Watanabe. He's back to a bench role, but he's still shooting the ball lights out. TJ Warren has come in and been impactful. Royce O'Neal is doing his thing. Nick Claxton defense has been out of this world. So now the last couple steps is for Joe Harris and Seth Curry to really get going for them on a consistent basis of knocking down shots. And when this team is really, really there, they're going to be as good as anybody. We've seen them have this winning streak, and it's been nice, and they've been doing their thing. But for them, it's going to be the playoffs and putting it together then, because this team has always been put together to have championship aspirations. But I do think the quieter it stays, the more better they're going to be. But I will say the little situation they had with Kyrie Irving, I think, was a blessing in disguise, because a lot of guys were able to find roles, find confidence within those roles, and now they have a bunch of confident guys coming off that bench when they need minutes in the crunch time. Next, we have the Charlotte Hornets. Play the picks. Before I even read this, I'm going to say by the picture and by the title, it's the Hornets not playing the rookies or the young players at all. I was a guy that came into the season thinking James Bouknight should have a big role or some opportunity. I thought we were going to see more Mark Williams to start the season, and we just haven't seen that. We've been seeing a lot of Mason Plumlee, a lot of Gordon Hayward, a lot of guys who probably won't be here in the next year or so, and it's been very mind-boggling. I did see some minutes from Mark Williams in the last couple games I've seen in the Hornets against the Warriors, and I forget who the other team was. But they're saying, look back at Charlotte's last handful of drafts, and it's eye-opening to note how little playing time his recent first-rounders are earning. Boom. Sure, LaMelo Ball, already an all-star, is deserving running down the show. But this year's number 15 selection, Mark Williams, had logged a grand total of 13 minutes spread across 3 games until earning a fringe rotation role this past week. what possible justification could there have been for trotting out 32-year-old Mason Plumlee every night when a 2022 first rounder at the same position was shredding the G League for 22 points and 12 rebounds per game on 64.8% shooting? I literally did not understand it at all either. And I was so happy for them when I was seeing Nick Richards getting all these double-doubles, and he still is when he gets this opportunity. And I was like, wow, okay, so you got Nick Richards. You're going to have LaMelo. You have Mark Williams. Can Book Knight show us anything? Jalen McDaniels is getting minutes. All of that was good, but I was like, where are the really young guys? Like right here, James Bouknight, picked 11 to 2021. Kai Jones, picked 19th by the Knicks and rerouted to Charlotte that year. Like, there's guys on this young Charlotte Hornet team that just doesn't get minutes. And to keep it very simple and short, the Hornets need to play these young guys. They need to find out what they're going to do with some of these older guys, and they need to stop trying to make the playoffs. Dive in on trying to get the number 1 draft pick or number 2 to get some type of star power next to LaMelo and call it a day. Kelly Oubre has value. Gordon Hayward has value. You might even could get something for Mason Plumlee. Terry Rozier you could probably trade. Like, they have 3 to 4 guys who they can really move on from and commit to these young guys, Bryce McGowans and whatnot, and move on and just try to tank for a number 1 pick, because LaMelo is good, but he's not the player that's going to take you anywhere by himself. But if you can get LaMelo and Vic with some of these in-between pieces, you might be on to something, Michael Jordan. Play the young guys, please. Play the young guys. Next, we have the Chicago Bulls. Blow it up. This is my favorite type of stuff right here. My favorite New Year's resolution. Anything that involves trading players and player movement and blockbusters, I'm the guy for. What are they saying about the Bulls? Ultimately, the Bulls are not a contender and do not have the ability to become one with this roster, even if they got their 2 best players aligned. That means it's time to look hard at moving both LaVine and DeRozan, not to mention Vucevic and anything else that isn't nailed down. Punting on the season may not keep that pick from conveying to the Magic, but trading veterans for other teams' future selections could help replenish the draft capital Chicago surrendered, and which should now be regarded as a disastrous deal in 2021. I agree with this wholeheartedly. I think the Bulls are in a nice position to punt the season or to blow it up because they have options. Depending on how you trade DeMar DeRozan, who you trade him to, and what you get back, you can still keep Zach LaVine. You may not have to trade both of them, if we're just being honest. If you find a team, because DeMar DeRozan is still playing extremely good basketball. If you can find a team that's willing to buy into that and can, like they said, replenish some of the draft capital that you gave up to get Vucevic, and you can keep Zach LaVine, you allow him to really shut it down for the season, recollect his body, get that knee right. You're doing the same with Lonzo Ball. And then with that, you allow Patrick Williams to just go off. Patrick Williams, go get your confidence. Be our number 1 option for the last 4 months of the season. DeMar is gone. Zach is shut down. There is no Lonzo. Ayo, Patrick Williams, Dalen Terry. All of these guys, just go loose. Go loose. The Magic can have the pick. Oh, well. And I would have to imagine that with the DeMar DeRozan trade that you would make, or Vucevic trade, or both, whatever, you're going to get some type of draft capital back. There's no DeMar DeRozan trade you do and you don't get at least 2 picks back. You know what I mean? That should not happen. So you don't even have to stress about the Magic pick, because you're going to get something back for DeRozan. And maybe you get something back for Vucevic that's worth being excited for. Maybe. You know what I mean? It's a very big maybe at this point. Maybe Vucevic just walks and you just have to wash your hands with that entire situation. Maybe you get a young player that hasn't looked as promising and he gets a new change of scenery in Chicago that you can get excited. I don't know. But if you can get some picks back for DeRozan and you allow Patrick Williams, Ayo, Dalen Terry, some of those guys to show some type of growth and get some type of confidence, and you can hang your hat on that, you know, it won't look as bad. And then you bring Zach LaVine back next year, hopefully Lonzo Ball. Patrick Williams is new and improved. You have some draft pieces there. Maybe you got a draft pick from this upcoming class for the DeMar DeRozan trade. You know what I'm saying? And boom. And now you just hoop it out and you're on to the next chapter. And if Zach LaVine ain't happy with that, then you move on with Zach LaVine as well. And then you trade DeMar and Zach. And I'm sure you got a boatload of youthful players and draft picks, and you good. They have multiple ways to go. I know Zach LaVine didn't go back to Chicago to start losing again. At one point, he was one of the only players in the league that was like a starter type player that had no playoff experience. But I think the Bulls changing their direction can be very bright for them. It may be the smart move. You know, we talked about with Trae Young and the Hawks, seeing the writings on the wall before it's way too late. Do it now, and oh man, you'll be good. Chicago, do it. Next, we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Finish what you start. You could apply this resolution to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the broadest way possible by interpreting it as an encouragement to run the tape after what we've seen and start strong. The Donovan Mitchell area, the Cavs answer plenty. Cleveland has 4 ace options with Darius Garland and Mitchell at the guard spots. Rangy, paint protecting duo of Jerry Allen and Evan Mobley. The small forward position remains the glaring weakness in an otherwise championship caliber group. Boom, I agree. You know, they're saying whether it's trade, you're developing somebody, they have to find a small forward that can just fit. Dean Wade, who's hurt right now, is what they're saying, shoots the ball great, but he's not the best defensively. And then you have Karis LeVert, who doesn't bring consistent spacing or defense. And then you have Lamar Stevens, who shot a career 27% from 3, who gets ignored by defense. So they just can't find that proper balance. And it's so funny that they have these 4 amazing pieces. 4 amazing pieces, and this one piece is all that they need and what they're looking for. I think they're going to get it, though. I think they stay the course. Don't stress it. Don't kill yourself for the small forward. But somewhere down the line, they're going to find it. And I think they may have to do, you know, some trading and some development. Like, you may have to go and find some, like, diamond in a rough guy. It ain't that far-fetched. I've seen plenty of teams go and get guys. It's like, damn, they made that guy into a rotational piece. Like, Dorian Finney-Smith came out of nowhere with the Mavericks, and he worked on his game. So, I mean, if they can do that with Isaac Okoro or somebody, I don't know. But I think that guy could be out there for them. I really do. Next, we got the Dallas Mavericks. Explore new ideas. And this year, the Mavs must at least explore the concept of a more balanced offensive approach. They're using Doncic in the post and as a screener more often, but they should be curious about what he could do when attacking closeouts on the second side once in a while, or spotting up on a wing as Spencer Dinwiddie and Christian Wood operate pick and roll. Obviously, Doncic's singular brilliance shouldn't make him the focal point of the Dallas offense, but a little more diversity could save his legs and force opponents to think on their feet a little more. 2 potential keys to upping the odds to a deep playoff run. I do agree. Their offense has been amazing, but it's also predictable, and it's probably why they get very, limited at times in games or in the playoffs. But I hate that we talk about this team as if it's like not constructed to be that way. The Mavericks are constructed kind of how the Rockets used to be for Luka to just be there. They're not constructed for Luka to be spotting up. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie is the only guy that can create something outside of Luka. Reggie Bullock isn't creating for himself or others. Tim Hardaway Jr. isn't creating for himself or others. Dorian Finney-Smith isn't creating for himself or others. Christian Wood is not creating for himself or others. You had that kind of with Jalen Brunson, Spencer Dinwiddie, Luka last year. But this year, they don't really have many options. I love what Josh Green has done. I think Josh Green has very high potential in being able to be, a secondary playmaker or something like that. But they're going to have to find, a role for him to be able to do that. But, as far as how the offense goes, it's constructed for Luka to kind of make everything happen. So in order for them to explore ideas, they have to explore new routes to a new roster. You know what I mean? They have to try to go get a Kyrie Irving that was been explored or talked about. They have to try to go get a Zach LaVine. They have to make some type of very, very big move to go get somebody that forces the issue. But going out and signing all of these 3-and-D guys who just stay out of Luka's way is not going to ever make any changes, to be honest with you. Like that concept of they're playing this way because of no, the roster is constructed to only be limited. And that's why they say somewhere in here, but Kemba Walker kind of played the same way when Luka was out. They just played around Kemba because it's just that's just the way that the roster is. If Luka's out, you can't be here, Reggie Bullock, I want you to start doing things. It's no, that's just not what happens. So I agree, but I think they need a very, very, very big change for that to happen. Next, we have the Denver Nuggets. Don't worry about appearances. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean. Who cares how the wins are coming? Denver is integrating multiple new rotation pieces. KCP, Bruce Brown, Christian Brown and still hasn't gotten anything close to what is expected from Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. The Nuggets should bank these victories and keep pushing for the West's #1 spot unapologetically. If nothing else, these suspect late game successes will build confidence while the roster comes together over the second half of the seasons. Wins are wins and should be embraced regardless of how they come. It's true that the Nuggets can't expect teams to keep hitting 1 of every 5 clutch three-pointers they attempt, and there's no chance Jokic will continue getting to the stripe 23.8 times per 100 clutch possessions. So I guess they're saying that the Nuggets wins have been a little faulty. But it's like, I agree. Who cares? I've always said that. I like just win the games you're supposed to win, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, however you beat them, and keep grinding. Because like they say in the article, at some point, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., and we're seeing Michael Porter Jr. kind of turn it up now, they're going to hit what they're supposed to hit on. And then these guys are going to be super deep for them. That's why I've been like giving so much praise to a Bruce Brown. He's having an amazing year. Aaron Gordon is keeping it up. Aaron Gordon was supposed to be a guy who was supposed to drop his production because Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. was back. He didn't do that. And I think that's going to be big for them. KCP, Christian Brown, I've talked highly of since the day that they drafted him because I know he's going to do all the little things for them. Offensive rebounding, guarding, making open shots. Bruce Brown does the same thing. KCP was shooting the ball lights out. They have a lot of different options. We haven't even mentioned somebody like Bones Highland to come off the bench and do a bunch of different things for them. I like this team a lot. I think they have a lot of different options. They have a lot of different ways to beat you. And I think we still haven't seen the best versions of their second and third best players. And when that happens, this team is going to be ultra scary, and we can retire voters fatigue because I don't give a damn about voters fatigue. Jokic is playing at MVP level again, like I said he would be, and y'all motherfuckers are going to vote for him if he's the MVP. I'm not voting for somebody because they already got 2 MVPs. Somebody outplay him, and we'll make them the MVP. Simple. Next. Detroit Pistons, look on the bright side. Please look on the bright side. Cade Cunningham, season-ending shin surgery will slow his development and delay valuable chemistry-building reps with Jaden Ivey. Until next year, it will also make it harder for the Pistons to win games in 2022, 2023, which ups their odds of acquiring a blue-chip prospect throughout the draft. A must for a team that can't be sure its roster includes a true cornerstone. Seriously? Ivy will get a chance to hone his unrefined game in a large role. Jalen Duran will be allowed to spread his very long wings, and Hayes can keep striving to justify his draft slot. The Pistons aren't going to be bad. The search for some good can sustain them in 2023. Right, just be happy. You know what I mean? You lost Cade Cunningham. That's fine. Killian Hayes has shown us something. It hasn't been much, but it's been a lot better than what we got accustomed to seeing. You still have Ivy. Jalen Duran has been amazing in my opinion. Isaiah Stewart has made some growth to his game. And yeah, you just try to thug it out and look at those bright spots within this losing season. And hopefully you can get you another top 5 pick because what they're saying is Cade Cunningham isn't the definite guy for them. And I don't know about that. Maybe Cade Cunningham definitely is hard to judge because we've only seen the rookie year. This year's was cut short, but I think I'm confident that Cade Cunningham could be that guy. I think if you can land a Thompson twin, Jarace Walker, Brandon Miller, something like that, I think the Pistons would be in a very good spot. But I do think finding bright spots with this situation could be beneficial. Could be very, very beneficial. They have a lot going on, but the future can be bright. You just got to be patient because honestly, nobody was expecting much from the Pistons, even if Cade was healthy, to be honest. Next, we got the Golden State Warriors. Practice self-care. They're saying there are loads of explanations for the Golden State's uneven play this season. The home road splits are confounding, and the generally disappointing play of everyone under the age 25 raises long-term worries. But if the Warriors could simply stop fouling and throwing the ball away, it helps stabilize things in Curry's absence and hopefully build habits that endure upon his return. You think a team with 4 titles would know that the worst thing you can do is beat yourself. It's time for the Warriors to stop the sabotage. So self-care. Warriors got to stop beating themselves up. Got to stop putting teams to the free throw line. Got to start getting to the free throw line. Got to stop turning the ball over. And yeah, with those simple things that they're beating themselves, I really hate how much they are careless with the basketball. To me, you can win the game very simply by just protecting the basketball. I don't care what team you are, how you play. If you protect the basketball, your odds and chances of winning go up extremely. And I agree. They have to stop self-sabotaging and getting their stuff in order because they have some type of they have something here that isn't like past teams, but it's good enough to be better than what we've seen from them. And they have four championships. Like, they know better. That's all I can really say about the Warriors. Next, we got the Houston Rockets. Run every day. At some point, everybody has made the resolution to get in shape when the calendar flips, maybe jogging a few miles once or twice. No one needs to commit to running more than the Rockets. It makes no sense that the Houston doesn't push the pace. This is a team built on recently drafted players in their early 20s, exactly the type of injury-free athletes who can run up and down the floor for 4 quarters without paying for the soreness and joint ache toe the next day. There may not be 5 more impressive open floor sprinters in the league than Jalen Green, for example. Houston doesn't run when it gets steals. It doesn't run when it corrals a defensive rebound. Perhaps the most frustrating of all, the Rockets are 12th in the NBA in points per play on transition chances. They're pretty good when they speed up, certainly better than they are in a half court where they rank it dead last in scoring efficiency. Houston turns the ball over a ton, and pushing the action and transition could exacerbate the problem, but who cares? It's clear the Rockets are better in an unstructured up-tempo attack when they are bogged down a half-court slog. They need to open the throttle up a little in 2023. I agree. This team is too young, and if you look at the pieces, you have Scoot, Jalen Green, you have Kenyon Martin Jr., you have Jabari, Tari Eason. I mean, Alperen Sengun ain't the most fastest athletic center, but this team should be a lot more faster, especially if they're not doing anything in half court. Let's change it up, Houston. Let's push the tempo, please. And next, we have Indiana. Be decisive, and Miles Turner's on the thing. So it says, obviously, it matters how the Indiana Pacers settle the Miles Turner situation, but it's actually more important that one of the league's longest running won't they plot lines simply reach a resolution. Turner's looming free agency is one reason for urgency. The Pacers can't let him walk for nothing after the season, but the bigger driver is the potential impact of Turner's undecided status on a young roster. If a long tenure vet can be strung along, dangled in trade talks, and generally stuck in a spot of perpetual limbo, how can the organization build trust with and expect full commitment from the crop of players expected to lead the next generation? Everyone understands or soon learns the NBA is a business, but there are a lot of ways to run a business. I think they're overreacting a bit here. They said it themselves. The NBA is a business. That's just what happens. I don't think the Miles Turner situation makes Tyrese Halliburton look at it and be like, oh my gosh, are they going to string me along? You know what I mean? It's just some of these situations just happen. Miles Turner is in a situation that just happens. John Collins is in a similar situation where it just happens. It's just like, are we going to trade you? Are you not? And sometimes that's organization, but sometimes it's also player. Players, like, one day it looks like he's going to get you 2 first-round picks. The next week, he doesn't look like he's worth anything but 2 second-round picks. And it's like, how do you commit to making a trade or pivot of getting rid of this player or extending them when their value from their own production fluctuates so much? So I don't know if players are like, if you do what you're supposed to do and contain value, and if you're wanted around the league or you're wanted by the Pacers themselves, you're going to get extended, or somebody's going to drive a hard bargain to trade or acquire you. And I feel like Miles Turner, as good as he is, it's kind of been up and down. Teams don't know or didn't know for the last few years. It's like, how worthy is he? Is Miles Turner worth 2 picks? Is Miles Turner worth 1 pick? Do we give a young player? Are we giving a young player and a pick? And then in turn, you have the Pacers like, do we trade this guy? Do we keep this guy? Do we extend this guy? Is he the future? So it's kind of a back and forth based off the player as well. And I don't. So I think this is kind of a little stretch of what the impact will be. Clippers, be a little bit more boring. The Clippers love a comeback, maybe a little bit too much. So with the stars in and out of the lineup and the attendant minimization of the regular season importance, it's understandable that the Los Angeles is prone to the lapses. How can players be expected to give their full focus throughout every contest when organizations basically operating if the months between October and April only kind of matter? For the Clippers to become the contender they want to be, they need to turn more of their games into snoozers. I agree. Basically what they're saying is the Clippers blow a lot of leads, and they don't blow out teams throughout the course of a game. And that's why they're like, what's the title? Be a little bit more boring. Means when you have a team down 15, continue to have the team down 15 or now have them down 30. Don't blow the lead. Let that team get a 10-point lead. Then you come back and take their 10-point lead just to get a 7-point lead and win the game. Just win the game from the start. Just keep the 15-point lead, build on it and make it a 25-point lead, and just let us all turn that game off because it's been over since the first quarter. And then you can just let your guys chill, rest, or whatever. And I agree. They blow a lot of leads, and that's not something that you want to get used to because in the playoffs, you want to be able to put teams away, and it's going to be very pivotal and important to be able to hold on to a lead. It's good to see that you can take a lead back, But keep a lead, man. Keep a lead. Great teams keep leads. Next, we got the Los Angeles Lakers. Don't do anything rash. The Lakers still have the resist pushing their relatively small pile of chips in on the season. Russell Westbrook's contract will expire this summer without costing them a pair of first rounders to unload, and the books will be relatively clean. Maybe LA won't have quite max level room, but the path to adding a third star, perhaps Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, or Bradley Beal via trade will be clear after the season. I agree. That's just that. We don't have to dive in too much on the Lakers team, but yeah, don't do anything stupid. You came this far. There's no sense in attaching a 2027, 2029 pick to a Russell Westbrook trade to get you somebody that's going to make you better, but not make you a contender. Just thug it out. See what you can do. Unfortunately, Anthony Davis got hurt. It's whip-diddy-do. The Pelicans on your pick. Let it be. But the idea of trading everything away to just get somebody to try to make y'all bet, that's just dumb. Just thug it out and play it out, and we'll see what that gets you. Next, we got the Memphis Grizzlies. Keep talking. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. Some might call it pretty petty or immature, but the team's identity is wrapped up in its brashness. This is who the Grizzlies are, and they're unapologetic. That makes them endearing. Sure, another playoff exit at the hands of a ticked-off opponent wouldn't be a great look, but deep down, we probably all wish our favorite team was so certain of itself. I guess. Sure, keep talking, but I would say back up the talk. That would be my New Year's resolution. Back up the talk. That's all you got to do is back up. Don't talk all that shit against a Warriors team, and then they don't have Steph, and they kick y'all ass on Christmas Day. Miami Heat, heal up. Get healthy. Miami ranks in 18th at 95.5 points per 100 possessions in the half court overall, but the Butler Adebayo Hero trio produces a much more respectable 98.0 points per 100 when the game slows down. That might seem like a small margin, but Miami needs every spare point it can find as it struggles to stay out of the bottom five in overall offensive efficiency. So it's saying when Bam, Jimmy, and Tyler on the floor together, Miami outscores opponents by 30. They need this team to have these three on the floor as much as possible. And I mean, that's simple. That's simple. So, yeah, heal up, get healthy, and have your three best players on the floor together more, and you'll be a much better team. I think we can all agree on that. Bucks, diversify. The Milwaukee Bucks struggle to beat the Boston Celtics in the definition of a world-first NBA problem. Everyone has a hard time with Boston in the finals, and that team has a real opportunity to be the last one standing this time around. It's still worrisome for the Bucks that Boston recently exposed a flaw that keeps cropping up at the worst time against the best teams, one that has dog head coach Mike Budenholzer for his entire career. The Bucks are too predictable. We haven't grown, said Giannis Antetokounmpo after the Celtics downed the Bucks on Christmas. Milwaukee has been defined by its adherence to particular styles on both ends. It prefers to drop Brook Lopez in pick and roll coverage, and it took years to recognize Antetokounmpo's value as a role man on offense. So basically, Budenholzer, adjust, man. Golly, adjust. But I will say one thing about the Bucks. We haven't seen Chris Middleton. This team does not have Chris Middleton. Javon has taken steps. Grayson Allen has made some shots for him. Bobby Portis has been big for him. Brook Lopez rejuvenated. Chris Middleton can change everything, but I do agree. Coach Bud needs to make adjustments. Anytime he makes adjustments, everything goes right. So I don't know why he's so against making adjustments. He made adjustments at the beginning of the year, and we were all like, oh my gosh, the Bucks. They don't even have Middleton. So it's like, go make another adjustment. What are you scared of? What are you afraid of? Go make the adjustment. Shit. Minnesota Timberwolves established connections. Anthony Edwards showed out during a 3-game winning streak in mid-December with Rudy Gobert and Karl-Anthony Towns out of action. Edwards racking up on 27 points, 9 assists in those victories over Oklahoma City. Chicago and Dallas probably should have been expected. When Edwards told, I'm having the most fun I've had playing basketball after the blowout win over the Bulls, it squared with his comments from early in the season about how smaller lineups were better for him. We can't throw dirt on the Wolves' reconstructed roster, not this early in the experiment and not when Edwards has so much room to improve. If you believe in him as a franchise cornerstone, you have to give him the opportunity to figure this out, even if Gobert is a diminished version of his Utah Jazz self. Besides, we've seen enough flashes of how easy the Gobert-Edwards partnership should be to keep faith in higher levels ahead. To reach them, Edwards, Gobert, and every other Timberwolves player must commit to the common cause of making one another better. This is bullshit to me. I'm going to be honest. Something got to change. They tried with this experiment. It ain't happening. It ain't working. They've probably been the most disappointing team in the NBA. If this dude is telling you he's better with smaller lineups, I'm not saying you have to go Mike D'Antoni, Daryl Morey, James Harden, Rockets, where PJ Tucker is the center. But you damn sure probably can't have Rudy and Cat as the 4 and the 5 going forward. It just is what it is. How do you recover from that? I don't have the answer for, but to ignore the results, the numbers, and what he's verbalizing to you will only make this guy more frustrated when these guys return for the foreseeable future and his shit goes back to being stagnant after telling y'all how he prefers to play. And then he's going to request a trade and he's going to find a way to come to my Knicks, who we're going to do good by him, and he's going to be successful. You don't want that to happen, Timberwolves. So listen to him and the results and the numbers. Everything lines up to what he's saying. And I'm not saying, again, you have to change everything to accommodate him. But my gosh, you can't take his superpowers away. That's just not smart. Next, we got the Pelicans. Figure out who's essential. Oh, Lord. Does C.J. McCollum bring the defense and secondary playmaker necessary to support Zion Williamson, who has also shown he needs to be the primary on-ball threat? Can Jonas Valanciunas find a way to defend the rim and operate in space against downsized opposing offenses? Can Brandon Ingram provide enough off-ball and defensive value while hopefully staying healthy to be Zion's best running mate? This isn't a trade them all endorsement of sweeping change. It's just an acknowledgement that the New Orleans needs to see what its rotation looks like with everyone healthy, determine which members of it are essential, and decide where and how improvements can be made. New Orleans is fortunate to have several young keepers on rookie scale or otherwise cheap deals. Trey Murphy III, Herbert Jones, Dyson Daniels, Jose Alvarado. So the real trick is deciding which of the team's many useful veterans are the right ones to pair with the younger core. I've been saying this for a long time. Shout out to my guy, Hugh Jazz. He loves the Pelicans, a big Pelican fan, and every time I talk to him, I say, hey, don't you get used to Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, the draft picks that they have, that is a combination of a package that could go get you a star-studded player to add to what you already have. You know what I'm saying? Like if Kevin Durant requested another trade for whatever reason or some shit like that, you could really come with that and say, hey, we got Brandon Ingram, we got Trey Murphy, we got Dyson Daniels, and we got this pick. You know what I'm saying? Or if that's too much, you know what I'm saying, you can go and take one away. And, you know, we got Trey Murphy, Dyson Daniels, and 2-3 first-round picks, and you can still have Durant, Ingram, Zion, CJ. You know what I'm saying? You can my point is you have so much going on that a trade is going to happen. Unless this team wins a championship with this roster, you're going to go into playoffs, or you're going to go into the season and you're going to figure out, oh, man, we don't have this. It would be good to have that. There's not a player out there that they can't get. They could get Miles Turner right now if they said we need a stretch big who can block shots and play on offense with Zion Williamson and give him spacing because Valanciunas ain't the guy. They could go make that happen if that's what they wanted to do. If they said CJ isn't a pure enough point guard, they could probably go out and get a point guard that could really put this thing together. If they, you know what I'm saying? Like they can go and get whatever they want. But what I love about this team is they have a bunch of depth, they have a bunch of options, and you know they're loaded. They're loaded and they have a bright ass future. So I don't feel sorry for them, but I do agree with the sentiment that they have to figure out who's sticking, who's not sticking, and somebody is going to be important. They can't keep everybody, and that's just the reality of what it is. Dyson Daniels and Trey Murphy could get you a lot with the draft capital that you have, and if you don't like Brandon Ingram next to Zion, Brandon Ingram can probably get you something good too. So they have options. New York Knicks, my Knicks, get your house in order. Maybe get your home in order would be a better fit, but you get the idea. The New York Knicks need to figure out how to win on their own floor. Okay, yeah, we suck. We don't win at home. We went on the road. We had an 8-game winning streak where we was on the road killing teams, and then we had a 3-game home stretch where we came and lost every single home game. It's literally mind-boggling. It's literally confusing. It literally makes no sense. But yes, we should win at home, and that should be that. Alternative resolution, sleep only in hotels from now on. Maybe that'll put the Knicks in a winning mindset they seem to find on the road. That's a good one. But yeah, we need to win it. We need to win at home. But that's not even a New Year's resolution. That's just like common sense, and only the Knicks could not get that. OKC, enjoy the dirty work. Kenrich Williams, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey are all in the top at their position offensive rebound rate, which is helping generate additional possessions for a team that needs extra shots to make up in volume what it lacks in efficiency. The Thunder must continue to embrace the non-glamorous work that has helped them stick to play in for nearly the season. In other words, muck the game up, keep it close, and trust SGA to win late. I mean, I guess their New Year's resolution to me should be something about like figuring out what the team is. You're showing some promise with this young team now. Shea is reaching star status. So it's time to make a move. It's time to pivot. It's time to commit. It's time to say, hey, these are the guys we like. These are the guys we believe in. And everything else doesn't excite us no more. We're not excited about the boatload of picks that we have. We're trying to go out and make a move. DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine could be available. We want in. Karl-Anthony Towns and the Timberwolves ain't looking that good. Count us into the conversation. We want to make big moves to commit to winning because we believe in the players we have now. That's the New Year's resolution that they should have if they're going to sit here and talk about doing the dirty work to compete. If you want to compete, go in and compete. But the excitement in OKC has always been, oh, we have all of these picks. I just got a DM today from an OKC fan. Oh, what prospect can fit better? I like Anthony Black. I like Jarris Walker. I like this guy. Obviously, we can't get Vic, which is a disappointment. Like, OKC fans are still trying to get the number one pick and just keep adding and adding and adding. At some point, you have to just love what you have and figure out what you can do to elevate what's there already. And that would be the New Year's resolution for me. Not playing the dirty work. Fuck the dirty work. I'm not excited from them being in a play-in. I want to see them commit to this young team and show us we believe in Giddey, Shea, Chet, Jalen Williams, Trey Mann, and we believe in that so much that we about to start trading some other things away. And we're going to try to see what we can get for DeRozan. We're going to try to see what we can get for this. We're going to say, it don't have to exactly be DeRozan, but hey, Pascal Siakam, ring, 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 OG Anunoby, ring, 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 ring. We want to add one of those guys to elevate this team. Oops, sorry. You know? Come on, OKC. Come on. Orlando Magic, consider consolidation. Markelle has been a steady positive influence since he returned from injury November 30th, organizing a Magic team that lacks quality guard play and helping trigger a surprising December surge that included 2 wins over the Boston Celtics. D'Angelo Russell is ticketed for unrestricted free agency, and Fred VanVleet can get there via player option this summer, making both somewhat risky trade acquisitions. But those type of playmaking and spacing guards should be attainable and will provide upgrades at a woefully thin position. The Magic don't need to become play-in chasing buyers, but it makes sense to at least balance the roster in the new year. I agree. Paolo, Franz, Wendell, and the emergence of Bol, yeah, they need to get that backcourt up. You know what I mean? Jalen Suggs, Markelle, RJ Hampton, Cole Anthony. They have a lot going on with a little at the same time. It's kind of confusing. I don't know about committing to these guys in particular, but figure something out because you're going to have the Bulls pick. Could the Bulls pick get you a Keontae George? Could the Bulls pick get you a Anthony Black? You know what I mean? The Magic don't have to go out their way to go do anything crazy, but they definitely have to find that point guard soon. The Philadelphia 76ers keep the ball hopping. Harden spends more time on the ball than any of his teammates, and when he's most decisive, it triggers all the best qualities in Philadelphia's attack. That includes everything from pick and rolls with Joel Embiid to driving kicks for Tobias to hit ahead outlets to get open floor threats to shake Milton opportunity to score. Philadelphia's mid-December run during a long homestand features some of the best and most unselfish ball the team has played all season. If the rock keeps moving, there's no reason it can't extend in January and beyond. I agree, especially when Maxey is back. Share the basketball. You have all of these options and all of these guys who can do a lot of different things with it. Not letting it stick in James Harden's hand is the best idea going forward. And that's just probably the best situation to be in for them because you have Embiid who can control the ball and command double teams. Harden obviously is one of the best playmakers over the last decade. Tobias Harris is no slouch. You know, when he's going, he can do some things. Tyrese Maxey is a young guy. You know what I mean? I even like some of the things we saw from DeAnthony Melton and Shake Milton when Harden was out and Maxey was out. Those two guys came in and was like ready because, you know, if you move the ball, you empower a lot of the other offensive guys that you have. So I agree with that. Phoenix Suns play the long game. Phoenix Suns head coach Monty Williams copped to pushing Devin Booker a little too hard and admission that his superstar set out games. The Suns have dealt with Jay Crowder's absence all year, plus injuries that have knocked Chris Paul and Cameron Johnson out of action for long stretches. You could forgive Williams for wanting his best player on the floor, and it's understandable that Booker would want to be out there to carry his short-handed, banged-up team. But the Suns have to prioritize April, May, and June over December and January. If that means making sure Booker gets extra rest so he can get back to 100%, maybe at the cost of a slide in the standings, so be it. I agree. Chris Paul is older. Cam Johnson obviously had his injury. I know Mikal Bridges is an Iron Man, but don't take that for granted. And now you have Booker dealing with this quadricep or whatever injury. Yeah, take it slow. If you have to be the 4th seed, so be it. You know what I mean? The whole push for the number 1 seed, they should have learned their lesson from that last year. It don't really mean much. You still got to go and win on the road. You still got to protect home floor, and you got to play good basketball. They need to really sit down and figure out something with Jay Crowder, because the sooner you can do that, the better you can bring in that new piece and get them acclimated to whatever their role is going to be and go forward with that. And, yeah, take it easy, because you're going to need Book and CP3 to be as best as they can be and healthy as they can be for the playoffs. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. Next, we got the Portland Trailblazers. Lead by example. Anthony Simons minus negative 1.2 defensive established plus minus is the worst in the league of anyone who's played as many minutes as he has, while the playing time variable limits the field because Simons is among the top 20 in total court time. It also emphasizes the sheer volume of his defensive damage. It's easier to survive with a suspect defender at guard spot than it is at center, but the Portland Trailblazers also employ Damian Lillard, a slight positive this year, but he's historically uneven at best alongside Simons in the backcourt. Josh Hart and Jeremy Grant have mobility and activity levels to cover for the mistakes, and Yusuf Nurkic is solid on the back line, but until the Blazers' top two usage players resolve to compete harder defensively, it'll be difficult to take them seriously as a threat to win a playoff series. I agree, and I know it's tough for Chauncey. Chauncey was a hard-nosed defensive guard who, would hit big shots, miss the big shot or whatnot. Yeah, these guys got to step it up. They got a lot around them, like they said, to cover up some things. But if not, you might have to explore. Anthony Simons' value is through the roof. You have Shaedon Sharpe ready. I think he would probably be a positive defender. Probably won't be as explosive out of the gate offensively. But you gotta pick your poison. You cannot have a backcourt that does not defend in the NBA. You cannot. At least not in the way. Not anywhere. Especially if you don't have a dominant defensive big behind them. Like I said, Nurkic has been solid, but he's not a dominant defensive guy that's erasing all of the problems. So some change has to be made. Because this team is really, really good and really talented, but it ain't winning much no more like it did at the start of the season, because it's like, yeah, these two guys don't defend. Just being honest. Sacramento Kings, keep believing. There's even a reason to believe on D, as strange it is to contemplate that for one of the crummiest defenses in recent NBA history. Though the Kings only ranked 21st on that end, which would tie for their second best finish since 2010. They're getting the process right. Based on the short shots they allow, the Kings should rank 8th in expected opponent effective field goal percentage. For the first time in the year, it's safe to believe. I believe in this team overall. Defensively, offensively, I believe it's a bonus as being their all-star. De'Aaron Fox obviously has played all-star basketball moments. Kevin Huerter, or Kevon Huerter, some of y'all call him. Davion Mitchell, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes. I like what this team has. I am a believer. You're probably a believer. We all love to see the Kings play. They have some of the best and most impressive wins I've seen this season. This is a playoff team. Definitely keep believing. The San Antonio Spurs admit the need for help. There are some good explanations for the San Antonio Spurs' reluctance to add a capable backup point guard behind Trey Jones. Still, even if it benefits with San Antonio's unusual approach, the costs seem too high, because while there's value in stretching the playmaking of Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, and Sohan, the lack of a conventional league guard other than Jones means all the Spurs' young prospects are missing out on a handful of easy setups every game. Adversity fosters growth, but the Spurs are making it harder on their developing players than necessary. The Warriors signed Ty Jerome to a two-way deal, and he's been valuable as a low-mistake organizer, exactly what the Spurs need. Game managers are a dime a dozen. San Antonio should admit it needs one. Yeah, for the type of players they have, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, you want to be able to get a guy who can set them up outside of Trey Jones. And trying to force Blake Wesley to be that guy, or Malachi Branham, is just not smart. I don't know why they don't have one. They'll probably go in the draft, but yeah, this is a good assessment of the Spurs. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, they have Trey Jones, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, Josh Primo was gone. They need to go get somebody. Go get Emmanuel Mudiay or something. Go get somebody. Please go get somebody. Raptors, face the facts. I like that. For the better part of 2 years, the Raptors have been trying to buck trends by fielding forward-heavy lineups. They were searching for a first mover advantage, with the product being 5-man units composed of players between 6'7" and 6'9", and the NBA increasingly prizing defensive versatility and multi-skilled offensive players. It wasn't the worst idea. Toronto's roster construction has had its advantages. The Raptors have forced tons of turnovers and thrived in transition over the last couple of years, but they've also suffered from a lack of shot creation in the half court and have had a hard time controlling the defensive glass. Toronto more or less ran it back and is getting the same unbalanced results. Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. both have player options for next season that could both send them into free agency. Moving one or both ahead of the trade deadline could bring back the downhill guards or interior bigs the Raptors need. But pulling the trigger on a deal will require facing the truth. This experiment hasn't worked as well as Toronto hoped. It hasn't worked as well as any of us hoped. It was super intriguing. OG, Scotty, Pascal, you know what I mean? That all looked really well. But I do agree. They have to go in a different direction from a guard spot and a big spot. I do like what Christian Coloco has done for them in his rookie season, and I think he was a very good pickup. I said that the entire draft process away. He fits the Raptors like a glove, and sure enough, they end up selecting him. But I do think they have to move on from that backcourt mates. Fred VanVleet, I like, and I know he's like a Raptor lifer, it feels like, but he's also a bag getter, and he bets on himself. And Gary Trent Jr. has kind of been explosive for them, but I think they need something more better and downhill type of guards. They shoot so much. Fred is heaving. Gary is heaving. You know what I mean? Like, they need somebody who can do a little bit of both. They need a little bit of both, and some trades should be out there for them to hit on that. Next, Utah Jazz. Go get John Collins. This is as blunt as a resolution get. Forget the most present or look good for the people. We're not messing around with vague suggestions. The Jazz get a directive instead. According to Shams, a potential 3-team deal that would have brought Atlanta Hawks forward to Utah failed to gain traction when Utah asked for multiple first-round picks. Stop being greedy. Granted, the reported trade scenario would have required the Jazz to send out Vanderbilt and Malik Beasley, 2 rotational caliber players, on reasonable deals who've helped drive in surprising success in Utah this season. But Collins is averaging 21 and 10 and shot 40% from 3 in 2019. His age 22 campaign, though his regular season production and role have diminished steadily since, he was also highly effective, including on defense during Atlanta's 2021 run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Even in the second season at 5-year, $125 million contract, Collins is far from distressed asset. At 25, he's among the league's best buy low candidates. I agree. Utah has done wonders for some of these guys. But I also can feel Utah. Jared Vanderbilt is a very big get. Because people in the league underrate him, that don't mean that they're going to underrate him. They know his value. Same with Malik Beasley. So I get why they kind of would want. But 2 first-round picks, I don't know if you're getting 2 first-round picks. I would definitely want a first-round pick. And, yeah, but I don't know if you're getting 2, Utah. You're kind of pushing it. John Collins could come there with a change of scenery and go crazy like Lowry. And I think that environment has just been good for these players to just go there and just be free. And I think John Collins, like I said, at 25, not that old, not that far away from a good 22-year-old campaign season. It was only a couple years ago. Buy in on it. Buy in on that. And then last but not least, Washington Wizards trade Bradley Beal. Yeah, I agree. Another one of those on-the-nose resolution to close things out. The optics of trading Bradley Beal halfway through the first season of a 5-year, $251 million deal would be bad, but the roster is bared of young talent with star upside, and the path to acquiring players like that is complicated by a rotation filled with veterans just good enough to keep the Washington Wizards out of their choiciest lottery position. Kristaps Porzingis and Kyle Kuzma are quality pieces, but both are likely to ticket it for free agent this summer via player options, and neither should. I don't know if Porzingis is turning down $40 million player option, and neither should be viewed as a long-term answer as the pieces they'll command on the market. It's not a given that Washington will be able to get positive value in the form of players and picks for Beal. That's another indictment on his contract. That said, with the league short on sellers, the first 6 weeks of 2023 might be the Wizards' best chance to extract value and trigger them. I will say this. Beal has a no-trade clause, if I'm not mistaken, and that could change everything. Like, imagine finally committing to that, and Beal's like, nah, I'm cool. But I do think they need to move on from that. I've seen some games recently where Denny looked good, Kuzma played well, Rui had played well, Porzingis was solid. And it's like, yeah, that was with no Bradley Beal. You were just cool. That's all. You're a cool team with them. You're a cool team without them. Invest in your future. Trade them. Get something. It may not be 3 first-round picks or something. Get something and move on and just allow yourself to get a top 5 pick for once. Please. That's all we asking, y'all. Please, Washington. Trade Bradley Beal, damn it. But that's a wrap. Y'all let me know in the comments y'all New Year's resolutions for all of these teams or your favorite team. Is it any of these ones that you did agree with, that you didn't agree with? I had my few, but for the most part, I liked a lot of these. The Bulls blow it up. Bradley Beal get traded. Atlanta Hawks start reading and writing on the wall. New York Knicks win at home. Spurs get a backup point guard. There was a lot of good stuff here. Let me know in the comments what y'all thinking, and let me know if there's anything y'all want me to react to or make another video like this soon. Much appreciation to y'all for watching. I love y'all. I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.